One camera. There you go. Oh, hell yeah. Everything looks real crisp on my end. Fuck yeah. The Overwatch theme song. I promise it wasn't on my end, even though I am looking at a bunch of Overwatch news trying to figure out how I want to tell how. Let's see.
Give me a second. Here we go. Hello, everybody. Give me a second here. Yes. Now it's officially a podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Mission Start Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Bionis. With me, as always, in the corner of the screen, which seemed to become a big screen, is Greg Deets.
Hi! I decided to show up as you introduced me, so that was fun.
So yeah, we are back. But you might notice there's a small change, and I want to get this out of the way before we begin to the news stories. We are official, like officially a Twitch affiliate. I didn't get the news until Friday. This past Friday, I was up late working on some stuff for the. It was for the stream. And I happened to find that I had a notification in my dashboard on Twitch saying that you've worked very hard on your Twitch content. We recognize that. So here, you're now a Twitch affiliate. I was like, that's big. It only took 5 days. I was expecting much longer than that. But it's crazy. So now people who are watching on YouTube or who may be on here on Twitch, they can actually use bits to cheer or donate to us, or tip us, I should say. And then eventually we'll have our own sub button, so people can sub us. Yep. And for one emote, it's nuts. I'm super excited.
As Martha Stewart would say, it's a good thing.
It really is. I'm super excited because this is one step away from getting partnerships, halfway there to partnership. Which for a lot of streamers, especially for me, like that's the goal. That's the goal for many of us, and this is great. I love it. We're getting there. We're moving on up. Anyways, just want to get the news out of the way before we begin our show. So we got some news stories. Some things happened in the past week. Nintendo has been doing some stuff, but we're gonna start with the one of the well, hang on, not the adventure side. Hang on, where is it? All right, here we go. We're gonna go visit back to the past. Good old Sakurai. Sakurai, he was a fantastic programmer for Nintendo for a very long time. What was interesting, I found this recently, is that this is reported from ArsTechnica.com by Kyle Orland. Early Nintendo programmer worked without a keyboard. Actually, let me see. Can I get that? Yeah, I do. So I'm gonna put on a screen an image of an early Nintendo build. Super Nintendo, I think it was, or the original Nintendo. Anyways, any programmer of a certain age likely has a horror story, from some rinky-dink coding and workflow environment that forced them to hack together a working app under extreme hardware and software constraints. Still, we're pretty sure none of those stories can beat the keyboard-free coding environment that Sakurai apparently used to create the first Kirby's Dream Land. The tip comes from a talk Sakurai gave ahead of a Japanese orchestra performance celebrating the 25th anniversary of the original game of release of Kirby's Dream Land in 1992. As reported by GameWatch and wonderfully translated by the Patreon-supported Source Gaming, Sakurai recalled how HAL Laboratory was using a twin Famicom as a development kit at the time, trying to program on a hardware which combined cartridge-based Famicom and disc-based Famicom disk system was, quote, like using a lunchbox to make lunch, Sakurai said. As if the limited power wasn't bad enough, Sakurai revealed that the twin Famicom test bed they were using, quote, didn't even have a keyboard support, meaning values had to be input using a trackball and an on-screen keyboard. Those kinds of visual programming languages may be fashionable now, but having a physical keyboard to type in values or edit instructions would have probably still been very welcomed in the early 90s. And I'll post a link on Twitch. Sakurai, the legend lives on. The legend freaking continues. That's impressive. The fact that he was able to program Kirby without a keyboard and using a trackpad and an on-screen keyboard to do it.
I always hear these weird stories, or fascinating stories, maybe use a better way to say that, of Japanese programmers doing unorthodox things to how we program games today, or even how like most companies program games back in the day. Like, it's very bizarre to me that these stories are coming out now, and I understand why, because back in the day, programmers and game designers were kind of treated as lesser than.
Mm-hmm.
And pardon me. And nowadays, they're rock stars, and we get to see a lot of how things are done now, but not then. And so it's really cool to see and hear about stories about like people at HAL Laboratories doing things differently, and how he basically made a game that is beloved worldwide by not doing traditional means. So that's really neat.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like, I love hearing stories like these because, like, again, like you said, like back in the day, like they were using very weird ways to do game programming. It isn't like today where like you have a PC, you have a coding program software to do it as easily as in a snap in a way. Now, back in the day, it was a lot harder to program games, a lot harder. And this was just an example. And again, as a person who, or as Sakurai, for what he's done for Nintendo and the games he made, like he was literally in the front lines, like programming the game at times. So it's very impressive. It's really cool. I like to hear more stories come out of it. Just not as Sakurai, but just like other programmers, just like as far as like what they did back in the day to program games. It's kind of like a mythos type of deal. So it's pretty cool.
No, I agree. I love stories like this. They're just fun.
Definitely. Move right along to our next story. Staying on the Nintendo topic. So, hang on a second as I bring up the...
We talk about Nintendo a lot on this show.
We do. They seem to be on the show a lot because they do some interesting things, as we discussed before. So, this is reported by Eurogamer.net. Nintendo's inventor of the N64 analog stick is retiring. So, 68-year-old Gendo Takeda.
You got it right the first time, I think.
Yeah. Nintendo most senior technology talent will retire at the end of June 2017 after a historic 45 years at the company. Takeda has been credited with overseeing every Nintendo home console release during his tenure and making notable contributions such as designing the N64's analog stick. As was announced today alongside Nintendo's financial results. He also had a hand in other Nintendo, I guess, quote-unquote, I don't know, enhancements, but like, just inventions along the way. He was also part of the Wii, the Wii production. He was also part of the Wii U production, including the what do you call it? The wireless remotes and working with the motion control. This man definitely had a hat in the past for a very long time as far as like inventions or just kind of things that Nintendo was throwing out there. And he's retiring finally after he's like 68 years old. He's been with the company for a very, very, very long time. 45 years. Ooh, wow. That is crazy. It's kind of crazy just kind of thinking back as far as like, nobody, I'll say this, nobody at the time when the N64 came out, like nobody had like an analog controller like the Nintendo 64 did. Everybody else was still stuck on the D-pad for the most part.
I mean, look at the PlayStation when it was its biggest competitor, and it had a D-pad, and I think the Saturn also had a D-pad. And he, if I'm not mistaken, the story about him coming up with the D-pad was because there were games that needed more of a one-to-one control scheme in a 3D space.
Mm-hmm.
And he saw the need for that during like early programming, and well, the rest is history.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So, but that's again, like last story, this story, and maybe I'm just not hearing enough stories about it even here in America. But the Japanese are brilliant when it comes to just like innovation, like thinking outside the box and doing things that nobody else would think of. So, as much as I dislike the N64 controller, that was the best thing to come from it.
That's true. It was very weird at first when playing with the N64 controller and like having this kind of, I don't know what I would describe it. Like it was like a controller, but then like there's this middle thing in the center now, and then like you're pushing your thumb on the center to rotate the character or the camera or whatever.
From what I read, the reason they designed the three-handled controller was because they knew that developers were making games that were going to require to use the D-pad. I need to stop hitting my table every week. I'm like, hey, does everyone like to watch me shake? But they knew that. Like, take the first Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards or whatever.
Yeah.
That game was a side-scroller. And there were many, many side-scrollers on the 64. Like, a bunch.
Yeah.
Granted, those didn't sell as well as the 3D games, like, Mario and Zelda and God, what else? What else was on that system that sold really well that had used that analog stick?
Mario Kart.
GoldenEye, Mario Kart, yeah.
Yeah, GoldenEye, Mario Kart.
but there were a ton of games that utilized the D-pad.
Hmm.
And Star Fox used the joystick or the whatever. Um,
I
but yeah,
yeah.
it was out of necessity. They built a controller that could cater to more than just one type of game. And
Hmm.
in a sense, that's brilliant. In a sense, that's really smart. But on the other hand, like, it's arguable that, like, oh, well, they figured out how to do it for the GameCube and make it just 1,000 times better.
Right, right. It took them a while to kind of figure it out and make it work. I remember, visibly remember when I was playing at a friend's place N64 that, I had this tendency to push pretty hard on buttons or on D-pads, and I had an indent of that circle thing at the top while I was playing Mario Kart, because when you're playing Mario Kart, you oftentimes it is not a game where you make friends in. It actually breaks them a lot. So
Yeah.
my thumb was often hard on that thing, and by the time I was done playing it, at the end of the day, I had a real good imprint of it on my thumb from pressing too hard on it. But it's cool. Like I agree. I think that more stories should come out, and dude has been working for a long time, so I think it's a well-deserved retirement. But yeah, no, it's very interesting for sure.
Yeah, I think when it comes to those days of video gaming, just in general, it's a fascinating time to look at because a lot of the games that came from the N64, PlayStation, Genesis, or not Genesis, but Saturn days,
Hmm.
they don't hold up. A lot of them do not hold up.
No, no, they
We've
don't hold up
refined
as
control
much. Ugh.
schemes. Yeah, we refined types of games. We figured out how to play certain ways, and just like they just don't hold together as well as I think most people's memory of them do. Like,
Yeah.
for example, I talk about this all the time that Mario 64 is my least favorite Mario game. That's not to say that it's bad. It's just like if I go to choose to play a Mario game, I'm certainly not choosing 64. It's just not going to happen. I'd rather go to Sunshine before 64.
Okay,
And
I can see that. I can see that.
um, yeah, it's just the GameCube had a better controller. Now, again, what did like Ocarina of Time and GoldenEye
Yeah,
and Mario 64 and
yeah.
Star Fox? What did they bring to the table? They brought a lot to the table,
Hmm.
and that controller, the design of it and whatnot, brought a lot to the table. And it got like what did PlayStation do a few years after the N64 had that controller? They put joysticks on their controller. Like you could go down the list of how each company influenced the other to compete against one another, and that's awesome. But yeah, like I may talk a lot of smack about this N64 because it's probably my least favorite console, but it did bring a lot to the table. Everyone was like going to disc. Everyone was like, oh well, we got 32 bits, we can go to disc, and it's better, it's just easier. And Nintendo was like, nah, we're good, 64 and cartridge.
Yeah,
Everyone's
yeah,
like, you're crazy, they're not gonna do that, and they did it. They did it for a long time, and it sold very well.
yeah. It sold well, and it was definitely something where you know it was interesting because like it was Nintendo was always looked upon as the company to kind of move forward. What should the game industry do tech wise? Um, it was kind of following the leader as far as like whatever they do, we follow. Um,
Unfortunately, like that trend hasn't necessarily stopped either, because if you look at the I stop looking at Facebook while I'm talking. If you look at like further in the future from the 64, our past, its future, whatever. What did the Wii do? The Wii showed Microsoft and Sony like, hey, motion controls, and they tried. Both
That's
companies
true.
tried.
Yeah, yeah. Good point.
And then um, there was something else that Nintendo did that forced the other companies to try to think outside the box, but I don't remember what it was.
Um,
But
it could have been. I mean, like Nintendo. Here's the thing about I'll give Nintendo is that they will put out some risky stuff that nobody will try, and some of it will hit. and some of won't.
Of course, I think that goes with any business realistically.
Yeah.
It's a it's just Nintendo is that's why I talk about when I talk about the console wars. I always say that Nintendo is in a class of its own because they aren't doing what the other systems are doing.
In a way, it feels like they can afford these risks. They can afford, doing like these crazy ideas that no other company will because they're in that position.
Maybe. I also think it's because that's just their motto, their company motto is
That's
to
true.
not do what the other guys are doing, to stand out by being different. Um, I think a lot of the times Nintendo does play it safe in certain ways. Uh, I mean, let's look at the Switch for example. Like their biggest title right now is Breath of the Wild, and
Oh yeah, by
they
far.
were like we got Mario Kart coming to it, but it's just a better version of 8. It's like that's playing it safe. That realistically is playing it safe as best
Yeah,
they can.
yeah.
So I mean, and we could. I don't know if you have it on the list, so I might be ruining it by saying this, but then they do things that are not safe or just weird that make no sense, like we talked about before, like with the NES Classic, and then going, well, it was only for that holiday season. It's like, why? What point? What benefit do you get from that? Like, did you just want to make it a rare thing? I just don't understand it. But
Right. Yeah. Are you talking about like the quote unquote like sometimes we it was an article I think I might have saw it earlier, but it wasn't you talking about the article where talking about where Nintendo says like, hey, like we're not doing it on purpose with the under shipment of products like they. Oh man, hang on, let me get the article.
they they see a different market share than we do, like or something to that effect. Because the article that I read, and I read it briefly because I didn't care to put too much time into it,
Mhm.
was that they had designed the NES Classic to only sell during the holiday season, and that was it. They didn't plan on making more. They just there was that one time, and then like demand was so high for it that they've had another shipment or two more or whatever, and now they're done. Like they're like, well, no, it was supposed to be a special one-time thing. Um, though the problem with that idea is that may have worked back in the day, where internet wasn't as prevalent of a thing.
Right.
Um, was it in that article? Okay.
Yeah, it was this article. It was titled "Nintendo on Supply Issues. Sometimes we get it wrong."
Yeah. I sincerely hope that Nintendo, because from my opinion, from my perspective, Nintendo's always one step behind everything, and
Yeah.
right now they're one step behind of how the internet works.
Yeah.
And like every all this evidence of how the internet works, like they're just always one step behind, which I understand people's like skepticism on their online service,
Hmm.
but from what I've like read and who's involved with the online service, I have faith. That being said, I do think that a lot of the times Nintendo just doesn't. They're very similar in my mind to watching Bill Nye Saves the World. He's really cool with his science and everything, but then all of a sudden he's like that grandpa that wants to be neat and hip, so he's like, "Hey, fist bump everybody, like it's cool, right?"
Yeah.
And then it's that's Nintendo in my mind. They are a little bit behind the times. They don't understand how the internet and the world work now. And if you announce something on the internet, like, and that's a weird thing because some could argue, like, oh, their direct was brilliant and paved a way for companies to kind of do their own thing on the internet.
Right. Right.
But on the other hand, like, how do you not know that if you're going to release something that's so strongly nostalgic and then undersupply it because you want it to be this special thing or you don't think it's going to be that big of a deal? Like, you've got to be out of your mind. Like, it's so weird, and we're never going to figure out Nintendo.
We never are. We never are. I mean, we said this time and time again. Nintendo. Nintendo's like the Riddler, but like his riddles doesn't make sense.
Right, right. It's like yeah, boring Riddler.
Yeah, but we
But yeah, so
digress. We
so hope
digress.
I hope I can't remember his name, has a good retirement. He did a
Oh yeah.
lot for the industry as a whole,
Mhm.
regardless just Nintendo. He did a lot for the industry.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely.
So both in in the past and with the Wii and all that jazz. So
Hmm.
kudos, dude.
For sure, for sure. So the next story is something that we talked about in the past, but it never came into fruition as fully as we thought. So, this was reported by GameSpot.com. PS4, Xbox One crossplay should happen, Tekken Boss says. This is from Harada. This was written by Eddie McCooch. Eddie. So, the possibility for Xbox Live and PlayStation Network to connect for cross-platform play is an interesting idea, and it might actually happen. One person who supports the idea of cross-play between the competing platforms for PS4 and Xbox One is Tekken boss Harada. Speaking to GameSpot at a recent Tekken 7 event in Sydney, Harada said that he has spoken with Microsoft and Sony to try to champion the cause, but it hasn't paid off just yet. As other developers had said, Harada explained that it's not a technical issue that's holding back the PS4 Xbox One crossplay, but instead security protocols and policies are keeping the multiplayer breakthrough from happening. Since Tekken has 3 platforms to do crossplay, it's much more difficult because fighting games are peer-to-peer, which means you are connected directly to your opponent, Harada said through a translator. Producer Michael Murray, that means all the security protocols regarding PSN or Xbox Live, the user IDs and such, it's quite difficult to match that, not technologically. So, here's the thing. We talked about this with Rocket League and how it was a cross-platform.
I was literally going to bring up Rocket League.
Yeah, because it was PC to PS4, and like we had because it was also an Xbox One, and we were thinking like maybe they're going to finally make that gap between PS4 and Xbox One, and maybe that'll happen. But it never did.
Right.
If this happens with Tekken, I hope this follows suit with, I hope it does follow suit with other games, because this has been, I wouldn't say like the issue for many gamers, but there's always been if you only have enough money for one console, like which one do you get? You usually get the one with most of your friends are on.
Right.
Or some of them, your friends are on PS4 and you get Xbox One, so you can't play with them. The idea of this happening is crazy, but if Harada can pull it off, it might pave a way for future companies who might want to look into this, because man, that'd be great.
So from I'm going to bring Overwatch, but from the Rocket League conversations and reading stuff about like Overwatch possibly doing it, there is a huge, not Overwatch doing it, but Overwatch having a recent issue that brings light into why it's so difficult to do crossplay. Let's take Overwatch. I'll bring up the Overwatch part for a second, just to kind of give you an idea what the hell I'm talking about.
Okay.
Overwatch is a huge multiplayer right now. Like, nobody can argue that.
Yeah, definitely. It's huge.
And when people on PS4 and Xbox want to report somebody, it gets reported to the platform they're on, not Blizzard servers. But if you're playing on PC, it goes right to Blizzard's like servers and their information.
Right.
So I looked into why this is an issue, and apparently, when a game gets a multiplayer aspect on the Xbox, it has to use Xbox servers. Period. It has to go through Xbox servers. Mm-hmm. Same for Sony. To do crossplay, they would have to have a interconnecting server, that basically connects server to server to server, is what it would be.
Yeah.
And that is it's so difficult to do and so time consuming that it almost isn't financially feasible or financially reasonable. Mm-hmm. Like Rocket League is a huge multiplayer.
Oh, yes.
It's constantly like top of the played games, like on Xbox, on Sony, on PC, in terms of multiplayer. And even that company was just kind of like, this might never happen. Because it's just a giant pain in the ass. To do PC, like to add PC to the Xbox and PlayStation separately, in their rotation of players to find, mm-hmm. Isn't as much of a pain in the ass. But I'll give you an example of something that happened recently on Xbox. So the game was updated when they did Drop Shot, which is a new game type. All of a sudden, Rocket League's Twitter was like, well, we've disabled PC connectability. You just can't play with PC people. So why? Well, it turns out that that connection from server to server cut off,
Oh, wow.
and they had to repair it.
Hmm.
But you could still play the game with other Xbox people.
Hmm. Interesting.
So you see how that kind of works?
Yeah,
and how
yeah.
Tekken would have to do something like that.
It's always been talked about, but like in terms of accomplishing it is, you know, it is a feat because like you're literally taking two different platforms, two different systems, and trying to connect them via the internet.
Yep.
If Harada can pull this off, he may have a template for something in the future that future companies could use.
Absolutely, I 100% agree. And
yeah,
but I will say right now to fighting fans, do not hold your breath. Just don't expect anything. It's like as cool as it sounds, as neat as it sounds, the chances of it happening are so slim.
It is, but I'll take it. I'll take it.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, I have hope. I guess it's just it's just the realistic nature of it is very difficult. And I do agree with people that it's weird to have exclusive games. It's weird to have like.
Oh yeah.
I really do believe that if, in my heart of hearts, that if Sony and Microsoft were to bridge the gap and join forces and make a one console for everybody.
Talk about the one console future.
Well, Nintendo will never do it. Nintendo is always their own thing. But if Sony and Microsoft do it, they would compete with, like, let's throw this out here. It's not unrealistic. Sony and Microsoft come out with a console together.
Right.
And it's like the PlayStation Xbox or the Play Xbox, the Xbox Station, X Station. I don't care what you want to call it.
Yeah.
They come out with that, and it's upgradable, like a PC. But it's upgradable in the sense that I've talked about before, where it's just like take out the hard drive, put a new one in kind of thing, or whatever needs to be upgraded.
Yeah.
And it's super easy for people who aren't, PC savvy, but it plays like a console. So there's no, like, the web browser kind of sucks. And, it's like that kind of thing. They would directly compete with PC so hard that I don't think I think the argument would then, like, it would be more at a head than it is now. Because as it stands right now, people are like, oh, playing on PC is better. But I feel like Sony and Microsoft are missing the mark by competing against each other. Because Sony and Microsoft aren't competing against PC; they're competing against each other.
Yeah. They've been doing that for a long time since Microsoft ever came into the business.
Right.
You know, it's funny because like these conversations, like the one console future, like this was talked about long ago. Dennis Dyack, the guy who made Too Human and
oh God,
yeah,
Too Human. What a travesty.
I know. He made that, but also his claim to fame was Internal Darkness with the GameCube. Those talks, I remember hearing the podcast long ago. It was on the old OneUp.com podcast. It was one of the. If you guys have the chance, please go look up Dennis Dyack and the One Console Future One Up podcast. It was an incredible conversation about that. And there was definitely arguments on both sides. The one thing that I will throw out there, like if the one console future did exist, and say that Microsoft and Sony did team up to make a console, and decided not to fight each other, what would the competition, like what would happen to that? Like would
that's what I'm saying is that the competition, because right now
just like, in software wise, not hardware wise, but software wise, like from game companies.
Oh, it would then come down to exclusivity to the console or the PC. It would no longer be like only on PS4. So PC and Xbox suffer, or only on Xbox, and then the other two suffer. Like it would be a direct competition. It'd be Democrats, Republicans, like that kind of direct competition kind of thing.
What do you say? Democrats or PC?
I'm not saying one or the other, just to keep it safe. But what would happen is that the competition would come into Sony and Microsoft would have to argue that theirs is simplified. It's, hey, you want to play these cool video games but don't have the money or accessibility to make a PC? Buy our console. And PC would have to come out and be like, yeah, we got Steam. and Steam would have to step up their game. Origin would have to step up their game. Like all these PC companies would have to like really step up in terms of software content to compete against something as a juggernaut like that console. Because right now, let's be honest, PC's in a league of its own, and having Sony and Microsoft competing against each other is helping nobody. Having exclusive games to either console is not helping anybody. Now, there's argument that the reason it'll never happen is because Microsoft's American, whereas Sony is Japanese.
Right.
And having that kind of difficult worldwide merger is just very hard to do, especially with current times, politically wise.
Oh yeah.
So it's just difficult. But I think another way that Sony and Microsoft could handle this is to completely cut off exclusive games. The Gears of War and Halo needs to be on PlayStation. Uncharted and
I don't think that'll ever happen though.
Persona 5 need to be on.
I don't think it'll ever happen though, because they want to make money for their company. Unless Sony,
but exclusive games aren't selling consoles. Like the numbers are in, and they're not selling consoles. Nobody went and bought a new well, not nobody. I'm sure that there's a few, but not in droves did people go and buy a PS4 this March to play Persona 5 or Horizon. That didn't happen. Last year when Gears of War 4 came out and the other exclusive that Sony had or Microsoft had that I remember, like people didn't buy an Xbox One for those games.
Yeah.
Back in the day, back when when it was GameCube, PlayStation 2, and Xbox, people did buy games because you bought an Xbox for Halo, you bought a GameCube for Sunshine or Super Smash Bros. Melee, you bought a PS2 for the Konamis and the Capcom exclusive games. You did that. That's how it worked. You want to play Crash Bandicoot? You got to get a PlayStation. That worked then. It doesn't work now. People 9 times out of 10 won't play an exclusive game simply because it's exclusive. They don't care enough. Like, I've known people who have the money to get a new game, but they don't care or get a new console, to get a new game, but they just don't care. It's not a make or break for them. I mean, most people that I know either have like one console and don't care about the others,
right?
Or they just already have all of them and they don't. I'm gonna play what I want.
I can definitely agree with you on some points. Like, I'll give you the fact that like it is not like it was back in the day where like everybody, would buy console for a game, and that has happened like time and time again prior. Nowadays, you can get most of the games you want to play on, on your system or on PC if you can run it. There's still a part of me that says like exclusive are still a big deal when it comes to game companies and to video game systems. Only for the case of like they might not sell as consoles per se, but the exclusives that they show off every year, it's like Nintendo. Like, they show off, 3-4 years that they're going to be coming out, and they're going to be really good, and you know that. It's the same case with Sony and Microsoft. They're going to showcase what exclusives are coming out for their console, and whether it will sell or not, it will put eyes on that console and those games, and people saying, like, I want to play this on this console.
I suppose so. I suppose you're not incorrect about that, but that's, again, a very small number of people. Like,
I know, but still, part of me agrees. A part of me disagrees with you, but I also agree with the other part. So,
well, there's the other side of it that if a company out there, a development company, a third party, gets approached by Microsoft or Sony or I don't know, Blizzard, it doesn't matter. Blizzard's not a good example, but if they get approached by Sony or Microsoft, and it turns into hey, you're making a really cool game, want to make it exclusive to our console, that company should say, nah, I'm good.
Yeah, it depends on the money, though, too. Some of these companies that are doing it may not even have the money, and maybe are doing it because...
Well, then there's the other side of it. Anthony. There's the other side, like the Bungie side. Bungie goes, we're not making Destiny exclusive to your console, but we will make content exclusive to your console. That's a different kind of worms. Let's say No Man's Sky. Now, people have crapped on that game enough, but let's say that those guys didn't just take Sony's money, like outright like that. Let's say they went and said, we don't want to make it exclusive, but we'll make things exclusive in your console. Like, we'll give the players an exclusive ship or something like that. Sony would be okay with that, I'm pretty sure. Sony wouldn't turn down that deal, because in their mind that sells consoles. But, and Destiny, the exclusive stuff on Destiny with the PS4 did sell PS4s. I saw that firsthand, so whatever. But
yeah.
It still sold copies on the Xbox. Now, do you know why Bungie didn't limit players to one system or the other?
No.
Sales. You sell double the copies if you put it on both systems. Now, that's why Destiny 2 is on PC as well.
Oh yeah, that makes
sense.
sense.
Even though Sony will still have an exclusivity thing to Destiny 2, and the PS4 players will get something extra, whatever. Point is that companies could make more money. Imagine how many more copies of Horizon Zero Dawn would sell if it was on everything and not just PlayStation.
The one game that I think would have sold a crap ton, and this has been, it was funny because this was I remember this story comes out every once in a while, back when it was still, very hyped about Metal Gear Solid 4. If that game ever came to the 360 at any given point, Konami would have made a crap ton of money. That was the most requested game at the time for that game to be ported over to 360, because that question kept asking over and over again: is it coming back? Is it coming to 360? Is it not going to be exclusive to PS3? And it turned out to be exclusive for the PS3. There was so much money on the table. My guess, maybe they made enough, but they were fine with what they made. But man, it just reminds me of the talk of something like that, So yeah, we'll see. I mean, at the end of the day, I think that, just getting back on the CrossNet thing, like, I think that, if Harada can actually pull this off, I think it'll be incredible, and I think it will definitely pave the way for future companies to use that idea of connecting, not just only fighting games, but I think of other games that can use that, PS4 to Xbox One connectivity, which is, something that, I hope for one day, and, hopefully it happens, but in time we'll find out. All right. Yeah. So, going on to our next story. So, I believe we covered this in the last story, and we have both agreeing opinions about this. But we have an update on the Persona 5 streaming from Alice. This was posted on their website. No author, but the message says, when Persona 5 launched, we put a set of video streaming guidelines that we hope would limit online spoilers for fans who have yet to play the game. To our surprise, we then saw numerous reactive news articles go up, opinion videos posts, and received many emails asking us to please change our Persona 5 streaming and video policy. We recognize that our fans are the reason why the game is a major worldwide success. It is. And we continue to want them to be able to enjoy the game without fear of being spoiled. However, we also heard your issues with the guidelines and have decided to revise them. Because we want to give players more access to the game while respecting the original goal, we are now asking players to refrain from streaming or posting video past the end of the in-game date 11/19, when the main story gears up for the final act. We also want to apologize for those of you who saw the previous guidelines blog posts as threatening. We want to be transparent about what we do, and the reason we released the guideline was to give streamers the right information up front. It was never our intention to threaten people with copyright strikes, but we clearly chose the wrong tone for how we communicate this.
I'm going to do something that's a little bit of controversy, if you will. I'm going to call it bullshit.
Really? You're saying Here's BS on all that?
Yeah. I don't think they cared about how fans reacted. Not one bit. in the way that they're saying it. I think they cared about sales. I truly believe in my heart of hearts that they cared about sales over anything else. That to them, they saw a lack of people wanting to buy the game. That I'm not supporting a company that isn't going to allow us to play a game past a certain point. They truly believe that their storyline is deep enough to warrant this kind of restriction on players, on streamers, on YouTubers. When in reality, that's not the case. People aren't going to watch a Persona 5 stream if they want to play Persona 5 and don't want it spoiled for them. Period. That's just anybody will do that.
Right.
It's not that complicated. People get mad about spoilers when people go onto social media and go, "Oh, Snape kills Dumbledore," and it's like, dude, I haven't watched it yet. Like, that's when people get mad. People don't get mad because some YouTuber or streamer is playing the game. If I don't want to see the if I don't want to see the story to a game that the Game Grumps are going to play, I'm not going to watch those episodes of Game Grumps. That's the beauty of on-demand viewing.
Exactly.
If a streamer of mine is playing Persona 5 and I want to see it, I don't have to watch it. And that's the biggest argument that people have brought into this topic.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't believe that Atlas was like, "Oh, people got mad at us, so we're changing it." It's like, no, people refuse to buy or play the game or even support the company. That's why you're changing it.
I totally agree with you. I think that I agree with you, and we had this conversation last week about, it is a asinine idea to do restrictions on streaming and video uploading of the Persona 4 or Persona 5 game to a certain point. Especially was it pretty early, you can stream past a certain date that had the main check on the game. And we spoke our piece, and it makes total sense. Like, if I watch a streamer play, Tekken 7 storyline, but I don't want to be spoiled, I would turn it off, obviously. What I will say though is that in the message, not this one, but the one prior, when they were given the guidelines, and after listening to a couple of podcasts, like, there were the way that was written in terms of, like, our overlords in Japan, like, there was definitely the people in Atlas and USA did not also support the idea, the fact that, because this is very much a Japanese rule that came down for Persona 5. So my inkling, the fact that that the U.S. Atlas also disagreed and were trying to talk to sense into Japan. Now, whether this comes true or not, or whether this is because of sales, you might be completely in the right. But I also think people within Atlas in USA or even Japan, like, kind of had those conversations. Like, look, this is the way that the world is right now. People are streaming and streaming everything, every game, every whatever content they can do for their channel, or put it on YouTube. This is the way that it is. Get with the times. Short and simple. So, I'm trying to think of the next thing to say, but I think
it's just, we had this conversation back when we weren't, like, the days we weren't streaming or doing the podcast. I had this conversation with the guys from Heat on Sunday nights.
Right.
And during the conversation, they were arguing that to them, Atlas was in the complete right. Atlas is absolutely in the complete right. That's no argument. Like, any of these game companies have the right.
Oh yeah, they have the right to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's their content. It's just 9 times out of 10, these companies will see that there's a benefit from it. Yeah. Whether minor or big, there's a benefit, and they're not going to pass up on something they don't have to pay for. At least that's how I see it. I totally get why, like, movies are completely different, or music is different, because A, they're cheaper. B, they're not interactive. Like, that's why gaming works in this facet, because it's interactive. But if Atlas had come out originally, it was just like, hey, don't stream or post the ending of the game, please. Thanks, guys. It wouldn't have been a deal. It wouldn't have been a big deal at all.
Yeah,
People would have just been like, yeah, sure, that makes sense. But no, they were like, you can only play about an hour to an hour and a half of the game, and then you're done. It's like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
Neat.
Yeah, I know, right?
And it was the further it, like, they were like, oh, you get your channel banned. It's like,
yeah,
right,
that's what really made it worse. Is like the threats of actual takedown of your channel. That's what made it worse, and they came off as like threatening.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and not only that, it created what's her name? What do you call it? The Strahan. Damn it, I'm mispronouncing it. The thing that you don't want to happen, but it happens the opposite and then tenfold. The Strahan's effect. I'm mispronouncing. Anyways,
yeah, I don't know what you're trying to say.
I'm basically saying that when this happened, people went to Twitter, went to social media, and just started spoiling the crap out of Persona 5 the minute that this announcement was hit.
Oh, it's I like to call it the little brother effect. You say, don't touch me, please don't touch me, and he's like, I don't want to touch you anyway because you asked me not to. And yeah, absolutely. Like I'm 100% on board with like you saying that because that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
You don't get to tell people on the internet to not do something and expect them to follow suit. Like there's some, like yes, the internet is the wild, wild west technically, or to a certain point. Like there's a very little regulations on certain things here and there, but
right.
When it comes down to you releasing a piece of entertainment, it'd be like, I don't know, movie companies like Slappy Meats, who we've had on the show before.
Yeah. He
tried to argue that to him, it's no different than a company putting a like when we get review copies of things and there's the embargo. He said it's no different than that, and I said it's absolutely different than that. For Atlas to say, hey, don't post or stream anything before this date makes sense. Because that's a specific date that the game's going to come out.
Definitely.
Once the game is out there, you don't have control about what people say and do over it. Period. Mm-hmm. You just don't.
Yeah.
And if a company came to us and said, we want you to review our game or this new anime, and we did, and they were like, but you don't get to talk about it. It's like, well, what do we get to do? Like, what do we get to say? Because at a certain point, you, as the developer, you as the source of entertainment, don't get to tell the other people who are using your entertainment to make media what to do. Like, yes, I can't stream the movie or anime, but if I decide to spoil it in my review, there's nothing you can do. Period.
Exactly. You never ever tell the internet to not do something because they will do it the opposite and in tenfold, hundredfold. Like you never do that. That's the rule of the internet. You don't do that. But yeah.
But ultimately, I do full on believe that with Persona 5 and Atlas, it had nothing to do with like people being mad at them. It had everything to do with people not buying the game because they were mad at them.
Yeah.
Like that was a lot of it where people on the internet were just like, I refuse to play your game because of this. I mean, I remember back when Nintendo kind of did something similar, and a lot of the big YouTubers were like, well, guess we're never playing Nintendo again, and Nintendo saw a dip in their sales.
Yeah. So. You know, the interesting thing about all this is like, again, if you want to hurt game companies, hit them where it hurts. Right in the money. You guys have the power. You just got to use it. You got to have moving on to our next story. Shaq Fu is still alive. That game is still around. It's still a thing.
I forgot they were doing a remake of it. Holy crap.
So I don't know why that cracked me up so much. Shaq Fu, A Legend Reborn, lives coming to the Switch along with the other Saber Interactive games. Written by Brian. Off of NintendoEverything.com. Shaq Fu, A Legend Reborn is in development for Switch that, according to Saber Interactive CEO Matthew Kirch, who revealed information to to Nintendo Everything in a recent interview. Shaq Fu, A Legend Reborn, was originally funded on Indiegogo in 2014. At the time, it seemed like the Wii U version hadn't been secured. We're unsure if Shaq Fu, A Legend Reborn is still planned for the Wii U, but now that the Switch has arrived, it wouldn't be surprising to hear about its cancellation. We haven't seen a whole lot of new Shaq Fu against the game as of late. A new trailer debuted at the Game Awards 2015, though there hasn't been much news since. However, what we have heard from Kurt indicates that the project is still very much in the works. The game is still alive. I thought that game was dead. Like,
I mean, good for them, I guess. They're gonna have to. Shaq Fu is one of those notoriously bad games. Nobody can like that. Me saying that is like a no like a horse Greg. But the reason I say it's notoriously bad is because that kind of goes into why people like it. And if you release a game that's not kind of bad, I don't know that it'll do well. Like, I want this Shaq Fu. I think it's going to be a super like fun game for a weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But that's it.
Yeah, I mean, like, it falls in line with like the mythical games as far as like, you know, that people or it just is this, you know, was announced and that would never come out. Like Shaq Fu, I wouldn't say is on the ranks of a Half-Life 3, but it's one of those games that, like, you know, we heard about it a long time ago, and it's to a sequel that was notoriously one of the most worst games in that era. I wouldn't say Super Nintendo, but
I actually have a physical cart because I was at. Hang on, I'll be right back.
Oh my God, live, we're getting some live footage of an actual cartridge of Shaq Fu. It's one of those legendary games like that has been that, you know, people have I guess in a weird way wanted to have a sequel, but like, you know, didn't really think about it. Should I have one or not? Oh my God, do we have confirmation? Do we have video? Oh my God, it's Shaq Fu. Hey, a little lower. Right there.
Let me pull up my Skype because I don't have Skype open.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
Wow, the Shaq Fu.
Real and everything. I even tested it. It belonged to an Alex Ingman. You see that name.
Wow.
But yeah, I was at Dimple Records here in Elk Grove before they shut down. Now the only one existing is in Sacramento. But yeah, it was like $3 for that.
Wow.
I think I even texted a bunch of people and I was just like, I have the money, but no need for this. Everyone's kind of like, that's worth it.
That's pretty cool. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. Maybe we'll get a Shaq Fu trailer at E3. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's definitely one of those situations where you and I are kind of like, that's a thing still, okay.
Yeah, it's good to know it's still around, but you know.
But yeah, it's. I think it's fun to kind of talk about and have games that were hyped the hell and they just turned out to not be good or playable.
Yeah.
Shaq Fu is definitely not playable, I'll tell you that much. But like Sonic R is in that category in my book.
Oh yeah, definitely. I love stories of vaporware games that like you think are still alive, but they're kind of still alive, or you know they thought they were dead, and it's like, oh hey, it's alive. Like what? Really? That game's still all right. Sure. Oh man. So moving on to the biggest news story of the past week in gaming news. And then we bring up.
Do you want to do this story first, or do you want me to do the my minute first?
I think this needs to be talked about, and then we'll do the minute.
Okay.
So, the Nintendo pulled an RKO last week, out of nowhere, announces the 2DS XL, a brand new design on I would say the DS, I should say at this point. They took away the 3D aspect of the feature. Bigger screens. Hang on, I'm gonna bring up the site. It says, hang on. So this is off the website. It's a different design. It's more sleek. A built-in amiibo support, so you can tap your amiibo figure to the near-field communication reader, which is basically on top of the bottom screen, and it will read the amiibo, which is really cool. Um, you can play all Nintendo 3DS, new 3DS, and more Nintendo DS games on your in 2D on this system. It has a better processor, and on top of that, the price is actually what making me want to get it. It is listed for $150 for the Nintendo 2D XL. It's out of nowhere. They just dropped this announcement, and the more I looked at it, I was like, you know what? I might actually upgrade to this because it's
I kind of want it.
It's sleeker. It's at a good price. You could play tons of games on it. They took away the annoying 3D aspect of it, and when they try to make it work, and it's a more powerful system, and you get to play the new games on top of the old games. Yeah, that's.
I mean, I kind of mentioned this months ago when I saw certain games coming out that didn't even have a 3D functionality. And I was kind of like, oh, 3D's on its way out. Like, and people aren't going to the theater to see 3D movies as often anymore. And I call it a fad, which is exactly what it was, and it was a better fad than previous fads. But it's done. You know, it's not going to be a big thing, and to an extent, I'm glad to see that because, that 3D was rough. So
yeah, I mean, what I will say though, I still have my 3DS actually. When it worked, like it's still pretty incredible the fact that they pulled it off without any 3D glasses needed.
Yeah, no, it's very impressive technology. I just think that people were like what I would normally do is if I'm playing a game that had 3D functionality, turn it off for a few seconds, go like, oh, that's neat, and then turn it off and never use it again. So
pretty much. I am down for this. This is cool. It comes out in July, like July 28th when it comes out. I like the design. I like the color scheme. Everything about this new TDS is just good. Like I really dig what they're doing with the system. So I may actually upgrade to it for my 3DS, honestly. So it's super out of nowhere. Just hey, a new system, go nuts, and people did. All right, so let me get this set up. So we'll do your thing in a second here, cause
that's fine. You know, you got a plan for the show. Go with it.
Yeah, for sure. All right, give me a second here. I'm gonna bring up the music. All right, guys. Hang on a second. Welcome to. Hang on, let me speed this up. Hang on. All right, you know what? Hang on. We're gonna restart that. That didn't work out as I planned. Yeah, I'll just do it on this one. We gotta wait for the ad to play by. Sorry, this is the most boring thing right now. I'm trying to hype this up. Oh wait, it's the wrong one. God damn it! I am 0 for 2 right now.
I have no idea what you're doing.
Technology. There we go. All right, we're in there. All right, here is your Overwatch Minute with Greg.
So a few things happened this past week that were pretty interesting. The big one, obviously, is that Diva and Genji are playable in Heroes of the Storm. But more so, because of their inclusion to the game, there's a new Nexus challenge, a 4-week Nexus challenge. Week 1 is a Genji skin. The one that came out a while back where you had to play 15 games with a friend. Now you only have to do 5 games with a friend. I can't remember what it's called, the Okami skin or something to that effect. I could be wrong, not Okami.
Right.
You got like a demon face.
Yeah.
But the one that people are like just over is the second week Nexus challenge, the Officer Diva skin, which makes her mech look like a police car, and she's wearing what looks like Korean officer outfit. People say that she actually looks very, very similar to Hops. The hell's her first name? Judy Hopps, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And the positive thing about these skins, by the way, week 4, let me just to clear up the Nexus challenge. Week 4 for Overwatch rewards will give you a spray and a player icon of Diva. or the Diva badge or the officer badge, whatever. And then week 4, you'll get 10 loot boxes for free. So if you have Heroes of the Storm, grab a friend, play 5 quick matches of AI, and you'll get your reward. The fun thing is that people were complaining about how these are exclusive to people who are able to play on a PC. If you don't have a PC or you don't have a PC strong enough to play Heroes of the Storm, you're kind of SOL. For people who don't know what that is, that's poop out of luck. But Jeff Kaplan came out on the forums and said, in the future, down the line, a few months from now, 4 or 5 months, whatever, Officer Diva and the Genji skin will be available to everybody.
I would assume so, yeah.
Yeah. Which is good to hear, only simply because every time they do an event, those skins are locked away. They're just, nobody can get them until maybe they release them again somehow. But they've never said that they're going to do that. That's a maybe. So that's good to hear. So people can get those skins without having to play Heroes of the Storm eventually. There's evidence to a new map coming out that takes place on the moon. People have data mined audio footage, and there's like a couple Winston lines. Like one, he says, "Go back to the moon. Sounds dangerous," or something to that effect. I do a terrible Winston, by the way. There's also interesting new sound effects, like a siren kind of sound that sounds like a space station siren. There's a couple weird like sounds. So that's, let's cross our fingers. But on that same note, people have kind of talked about where we have maps and which characters are involved, and there's like a bunch of characters who still don't have maps tied to their character. Like, for example, Winston doesn't have a map for him. So, so yeah, there could be a new map on the horizon. A couple things. Oh, and Diva was temporarily disabled yesterday or not yesterday, but the day before, when they put the Diva skin on the console, like had that update, like something happened and she was completely overpowered and couldn't be killed or something like that, so they disabled her.
Wow, hilarious.
Disabled her for competitive, I should say. Like, she was still in quick play, but
right, yeah.
But then, like, it was like 4 or 5 hours later, she was re-abled. Like, they just fixed it, whatever the problem was. I didn't really look into it. I just was like, okay, something's wrong, they'll fix it. And if they can't fix it, oh boy. People discovered that May's original design was she was a bounty hunter. Powers are almost identical, but she wasn't like this cute researcher of climate change and all that jazz.
Interesting.
She was taller. Her design and colors were very, very similar to what they are now, but her gun was more like rifle shaped, and so yeah, that was I thought that was neat. A couple things about pros. So 3 stories about the pro Overwatch players. First off, guy in Canada.
Oh, is this the story where like one of them was speaking some racist stuff?
So here's exactly what happened. Here, I watched the footage. I watched the footage with the slur and everything, just because I wanted to. Right. So he's a pro in Canada. I don't remember his name for the life of me, but because it doesn't matter anymore. But he was online, he was streaming, and he was playing with some other guys, and they were practicing. Well, there was a Widowmaker on the other team who was probably cheating, constantly getting headshots very easily, and he was very angry. And one of the guys asked if he was peeking. Now, I'm not sure what that means exactly, either peeking in audio terms or peeking as in, like, his career. I don't know. But he was like, he goes, "Oh, you're going to say that to me?" And then screams as if a pterodactyl ran into his room and hit his mic. And then just starts saying the N-word about 60 times. Wow. Sorry, about 30 times. I don't exaggerate.
Yeah.
But it was about 30. It was honestly about 30 times. Like, he just kept saying it over and over and over and over. Maybe it was more than 30, but it was just a lot. And shortly after that, like, everyone just kind of like the guys that were playing with him kind of they went offline. They didn't speak to him, and then he shut off the stream. He completely he claims the reason he did that is he just wanted to say the most offensive thing that came to his mind, and that was the word that came to his mind. He admits he messed up, but he doesn't blame the MLG Canadian League for dropping him, whatever the name of it was. He
Mm-hmm.
doesn't blame anybody for distancing themselves from him. He did that typical white guy thing that's like, I'm not racist, I swear. Um, and uh, he he is completely since retired from MLG.
Wow.
Like he's like, you'll never see me again. So
Wow.
guys, keep that in mind when you're being racist online.
Yeah.
Seems like it can be bad for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I thought these next two stories were really cool. So before I get to the cooler one, I'll get to the first one. One of Korean's big pop stars, like he's part of a group that is huge in Korea right now, is also the top 30 Overwatch player in the world.
Ah, that's cool. I like
Like
that.
he's the
That's really
30th
cool.
best player in the world. Yeah. And they've asked him, like, do you want to be a competitive player? Like, do you want to go MLG? And he says, nah, because singing is my passion. And kudos to him, whatever. But people have argued that Korean pop music is very like not lucrative for people who are like on stage. They get paid very little, and they don't get any rights to any of their stuff. But like other people pointed out, that it's not that different from America to the extent that sure, like during his time as the pop star, he's kind of not in the limelight, but afterwards, like there's a ton of doors that have opened for him. So there you go. Thought that was interesting.
Mm.
And the last thing that's really cool about the pro stuff, and this is also the last story for the week of Overwatch news. There is a Swedish, I believe it's Swedish, Overwatch team that is going to put their time together in order to teach players how to be better at Overwatch.
I like that. I like that. As a person who plays score rules and who, understands like the competitive nature and showcase and teaching younger players about how to play the game, I freaking love it.
Yeah, it's really cool. I really, really dig it that
Hmm.
they want to make sure that people understand that if you have to have roles, you have to have you have to understand how the game functions and the mechanics wise, and there is no mains unless it's like a class main, like support main or tank main. And you always want to have one player that's flex, one player that will switch depending on what can counter the other team. Or if they have what, like, let's say they have a really good Pharah and you need to counter it, like you need the flex player changes, not everyone else. And I think that's awesome, that's brilliant, and more pro teams need to do that,
Hmm.
because honestly,
Agreed.
like
Agreed.
what makes professional sports more entertaining, or gaming, whatever you want to, however you want to classify that, what makes that more entertaining? When everybody's on the same playing field.
Hmm. And that has been your Overwatch Minute with Greg. Okay. That was cool. I set this up. I have my phone connected to my mixer, so I'm like, oh, that's right, I could do this. There's one last thing I want to put out there because I think it's a very, very interesting read. Also, I'll answer your question in a minute. Person in the chat about PC thing. ESA, the govern the pretty much the governing bodies of the game industry, as far as like rating the game, like rated M, adult, whatnot. They put out a study regarding what their findings were in the past 1 or 2 years. But it's a really, really interesting just packet information, as far as the average gamer is 35 years old, women ages 18 and older, or the total consumer spends on the video game industry was 30.4 billion in 2016. It's really interesting stuff, and it's all not just all text, it's all visual. So for me, as an artist, I love this. um, but I suggest to go check it out. Just like interesting tidbits in here that they found, like research wise. So it's like 20 pages long, but it's really good. It's really good. And to answer your question in the chat by Wolfo Wrestler 182, Yes, I'm a long-time console gamer. I'm looking to switch to the Master Race. Is it better to buy an already set rig or try to build your own? I've always said that, actually, right now, my PC that I'm running on is actually something I made back in 2010, originally because I wanted to play StarCraft 2, like when it launched, and I wanted a PC powerful enough. Over time, I've upgraded over time to better parts for my PC rig. Um, I'd say that it depends on what your budget is, because for me personally, building your own PC is a much more gratifying feeling. If you're patient enough to go through the trials and tribulations of figuring out how to make it, how to put it all together, and troubleshooting an entire PC, it's fun to do in my opinion. But if you're not that type of patient person, I'd probably go buy one. There's actually plenty of rigs you can buy nowadays. They're actually cheaper or on par as far as like how much it would to make it if you were doing it by scratch.
If I could give some advice on this topic, because I feel that too many people kind of look at it from a strange perspective in my mind. Um, you're not wrong, Anthony. I think that you're absolutely correct on the gratifying nature of building your own PC. But from another long-time console player, um, going and buying a console or going and buying a PC and having that PC just be what it is right off the bat and getting to plug and play essentially is kind of what you're gonna want as a console, like an ex console player or like a console player that's trying to move on.
Yeah, true.
But keep in mind, buy a PC that has the capability of easily being upgraded. You don't want to buy an Alienware and then all of a sudden find out that
Yeah.
it's basically a console.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, that's a huge thing. You want to buy something that's upgradable if you're going to go that route. Again, and but personally, I would like to do, build your own PC. It's always fun to do. But if you don't want to do that one, do the other route, that's fine. Just be careful as far as like what you can buy out there.
Yeah, it's just somebody like me. I don't know enough about PCs to build one.
Right.
I'd have to do a bunch of research or have a friend kind of like walk me through it.
Hmm.
But um, if I were to like when I get a PC, what my plan is to just buy one outright, and then like either have a friend come over and show me kind of like components and stuff and what's upgradable and not upgradable and yada yada. Which I have plenty of friends that do that.
Right. Right.
Um, or also uh, basically being able to plug and play and get the internet on it right away and then learn about my PC. That's another factor, but already being able to use it, like that to me is like is paramount.
Hmm.
I don't want to buy parts and then build and then hopefully get it to work. I just want it to work.
Right. I would also argue if you were in it just to have um to play like awesome PC games or have a PC that you want ready available, and you don't want specifically just want to use it for everything else. You just want specifically for gaming. I suggest looking to Steam machines. They're specifically they're kind of a console, but they're also much in line with a PC. You can actually upgrade the components of the Steam machine with the PC parts it has in it.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
suggest looking into that as well.
I agree with that. Yeah.
But yeah, thank you for the question. But that's gonna do it for today's show. So before we end the show, Greg, where can they find you on the internet?
You can find me on Tumblr. Why do I say Tumblr every time? I don't use Tumblr. I don't know why I say that. Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram under Chub Rock Geek. You can find me on Snapchat under Chub Rock Snap. You can find me every Saturday on Half Empty E Tank. It's twitch.tv. No. We bought a new URL. It's heet.tv. Heat.tv. Also, we have an event coming up this upcoming weekend, which I'll be able to do the podcast next Sunday. I was trying to think of the hours. Like it ends on Sunday way before the podcast starts. But yeah, I'll be part of the Cinco de Mario marathon, which is a charity event where we play 48 hours of Mario games for direct relief. I will be on super late or super early, depending on your time zone, playing Super Mario World and Super Mario Bros. 3.
Cool.
There's a donation incentive for my run on Super Mario World. Um, if if we get, God, I don't know how much Brian put on that, but if we get a certain amount, which you can check out on Cinco, the website, by the way, is Cinco de Mar.io.
Right.
So if you go there, you can see the incentives and whatnot. Which actually, I'm going to do that right now since I'm just kind of. I don't know what the incentive is. Like uh, I I can do it. Like I can run it, but like I just don't know. I don't know what's what.
Right, right. For sure.
Um, let's see. Schedule donate. Let's go to donate. See what it does. A few things you should know. Donations go directly to direct relief. That's worded very strangely. So yeah. So right now. Whoa. Okay. So right now there's only two donations incentives. The goal, by the way, is $10,000. But the two donation incentives are Super Mario Bros. 2 musical chairs. We play musical chairs to decide who gets which controller at random, and the donation incentive on that is 2,500. And then the Super Mario World Play the Star World stages, which is the groovy and tubular those stages.
Mm-hmm.
And that donation incentive is at 5,000.
Hmm.
Which
Wow.
I didn't know that was a thing. So I
Wow.
don't know. I don't know if we'll get there, but we're certainly gonna try.
I
But
mean,
yeah,
well, I'll say this much. You guys did raise, was it 10K at MagFest? That
10K overall of Magfest, not with our group only raised 5,000.
I see.
I think I could be wrong. Maybe it was 6,000.
Hmm.
We didn't get 10,000. I can tell you that much.
Ah, gotcha. Still very impressive. Still very impressive, but
Well, the other side to that is like it all depends on what the donation to like what it goes to as well because something that I've personally noticed when it comes to charity events, if it's helping other people, like actually helping them in terms of medical stuff, it's
mm-hmm.
great. But Child's Play, as much as I love that charity, it's not. It's helping children, kind of. It's helping them not have such a terrible time in the hospital. That's all it's doing. It's not actually like going towards uh um why am I drawing a blank? Going towards cancer research or like ALS research or what have you. Like it's pretty limited. So I get why people are maybe a little bit more hesitant to donate towards Child's Play versus direct relief, which literally directly helps the other people. So,
Right, right, definitely.
but I'm really excited about this. Like, I'm glad I get to play two of my favorite Mario games, my top two favorite Mario games. I'm very happy about this. I don't need to practice either game because I know both of them so much because I played them so much as a kid. But I should probably play them just
Yeah,
to kind of
yeah,
get it down a
probably
little
should.
bit. But eh.
Probably should. Yeah.
I'll put it this way: I hadn't played them for years. Like, I'm talking like 15 to 33, right? And I was at Brian's house in North Carolina. And for the stream, I played both Mario 3 and World, and I was able to beat both of them quickly.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with 3 is the World 8 stages. Those kind of throw me off just a little bit. Um, but if I can get past like some of those are a little bit more difficult to get past than others, but um, uh, the issue lies in that Mario World won't be a problem. Just because I'm good at Mario.
Right.
I don't know. I'm not too worried about practicing. I will practice, but I'm not too worried about it.
Right,
I
right.
was I was able to beat Mario World in 30 minutes using the Star Road stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and again that was 30 minutes because I hadn't played it since I was a kid.
Right,
But
right.
still, 30 minutes is pretty dang good.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, definitely. Awesome. Also, I would add that Greg also has been busy on the site. He put up 2 reviews as of late. The
Three.
review for three reviews, I should say. He has been on the ball. He has been turning reviews out. You can check him out at missionstarpodcast.com under the review section, which you did a review for Guardians of the Galaxy Telltale series. You did a review for what was there two?
The second one was for. Oh my god, why am I drawing a
Oh,
blank? It was the one.
The Disney collection. Yeah, that was
Yeah, yeah, the Disney collection, which is actually one of the longer reviews I've ever written.
Oh yeah.
Because I decided, since I hadn't played those specific games since I was young, and some I had never played, like the ones that are sequels,
Mm-hmm.
and Darkwing Duck. I thought I would review those in a plain site instead of like nostalgic or like in a lump sum.
Mm-hmm.
So I did each one individually, put a whole paragraph to it, and gave each game an individual score, and then gave the pack as a whole a score. And then the last game that I reviewed very recently here is the Spectre Knight DLC that just came out for Shovel Knight.
Yes.
Of course, I would have done it earlier had it come like had it come out on any other console besides the Switch. When it came out, but don't have a Switch, so can't really do anything about that.
Yeah.
Maybe if we get some more bits, we get Switches for other reviewers.
It
But no, it just came out on the 3DS like last Tuesday. So
right, definitely.
I've already beaten it like 6 times.
Jesus. How long is that campaign, by the way?
Well, first time I played, it took me about almost 5 hours, just because I didn't know the stages and I was dying quite a bit. I think that's correct. I'm gonna double check that because I took a picture of it on my phone just to. Because everyone was like, or people who were playing were like, I want to know how long it takes you to beat. And I was like, okay, let's see. It took me, almost 4 hours. So 3 hours and 42 minutes to beat individually. I had 95% completion.
Man, I might actually want to beat that on stream, actually.
Then I played the second time I played it, and since I knew the levels and the control scheme really well, it took me less than 2 hours. But again, I'm also like really good at Shovel Knight stuff. So.
It may vary as you may.
Absolutely.
Okay. Awesome. You can follow me on Twitter at Defective Naruto. You can follow the work that me and Greg do. The work that me and Greg work on at missionstarpodcast.com. I was really wordy, but I'll make it work. So. If you enjoyed this podcast, if you're watching this on Twitch, which if you are, thank you. Check it out on iTunes and Stitcher. We usually upload the audio version on Tuesdays. You can subscribe to it, and also you can check it out on our website. We usually post it on Tuesdays as well on the site in the podcast section under Mission Star Podcast. If you enjoy our talks about conventions, we're actually gonna have a new episode coming up for Fanime. But we have a podcast that talks about conventions and cosplayers and all that stuff you want to find out about the next exciting anime convention or video game convention or comic convention. For our thoughts and critiques, check out The Conover, which is also on iTunes and Stitcher. Last but not least, well, I should say, not that, but The Rolling 20s, which is a podcast hosted by Jeremy Wilson on the site. It's posted every Friday. A comic book, a entertainment, a movie, a video game, an anime. It's just whatever nerdy stuff you can throw at the wall. Podcast, which is also available on iTunes and Stitcher and in the podcast section of our website. And I can safely say that I am halfway there for actually setting up the movie podcast on our site. I uploaded the recordings on our YouTube channel. It should be up on Wednesdays for the past couple episodes, but I'm slowly getting there. It will happen eventually. I do know that I think for me and much of the cast, we are all excited to watch Guardians of the Galaxy, which is coming out this week. This week.
What? Wait, hold on. What?
Guardians of the Galaxy. It's coming out this week.
Ruh-roh.
I'm not saying that everybody's going to watch it in the same date. But
oh my god, May 4th. May 4th. I thought it was 14th.
No. Nope, it's this week.
No, I don't know how I'm going to see it. I don't know how I'm going to have to sell the kidney.
It's going to be freaking awesome. Yeah, it's coming out this week. I probably will see you next week.
I gotta figure out how to get $10.
Mm.
I gotta figure.
We'll find out off stream. But thank you for, thank you for watching. And we'll end with that. We'll see you guys next time.